what often people think like being sex positive is like sex for all, like have sex with whoever, like end the stigma. And I think that was like the 1960s, like feminist birth control revolution, right? Of going from super 1950s housewife to this like sexual liberation. But I think now as spiritual beings, we're realizing sex is sacred and it is an act of the divine. And you do carry the energy of whomever that you have sex with, whether you're male or female, non-binary. And it's like, to really ask yourself, do I want to become this person?
Absolutely.
Or do I want to take on their qualities because what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's pretty common now that people know about energetic vampires. And it's a similar thing, if not a more amplified thing, to sleep with someone and then have them leech your own energy from you. So, and then later find out that that person energetically was a disaster is not the best thing.
Welcome back to the Highest Self podcast. My name is Sahara Rose, and on this podcast, I love to take spirituality and make it really modern, grounded, fun, sexy, embodied, juicy, flowing, because to me, the spiritual journey is not about leaving your body, but rather being so integral in it. And the past few years, I have been deepening into my sensuality journey, especially the past year after my divorce. That really cracked me the fuck wide open. And I was like, oh my God, I am a devotee of love. And it just made me just so much more enamored by the erotic and the sensual and poetry and how we can live our lives in a state of romance, because so many of us, we think after a breakup or a divorce, which by the way is huge in the collective right now, that suddenly love has been stripped from us. Like now it's gone and we can never experience that thing again until we find someone else to fill this void in our lives. But really, our relationship with love is our relationship with the divine, and it's eternal. And really, when we are making love to another, we are making love to God through that person. And it really brought me back to the Sufi ancient mystics that knew that our relationship with spirit is really the romantic relationship that we are craving. And when we are able to make love through each other to the divine, that is really when we take the erotic and make it something that is so much more. So on my journey of studying different tantric teachings, diving into different ancient scripts, I came across many different, books and Instagrams and poetry. And I came across this beautiful poet that you're going to hear from today. You may recognize him. You may follow him. You've probably seen his posts. He goes by NoopFace, and he writes the most beautiful, delicious, erotic, yet like heart-encompassing poetry. And while I'm here living in London right now, which is so exciting, my Jupiter and Venus lines run through here, so it feels very good. I was like, okay, I need to have him here on the podcast. And I really wanted to create this beautiful sacred space. You're here in this hot pink room with us where he can read some of his poetry and we can have a discussion about what it meant and how we can incorporate more of that, just like living our lives from this romantic state of poetry and the erotic, and really finding the foreplay before the foreplay, right? Like we're so caught up in like, okay, foreplay, like base 1, base 2, base 3, but it's like, what's before that? And it's our language, it's our intention, it's our gaze, it's us truly seeing and understanding one another. And that's really what the feminine desires more than anything. And before we get into this conversation, I would love if you would hit subscribe on this podcast. This is the best way for you to stay tuned on future episodes, and it helps raise the vibration of the planet. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, hit subscribe and we'll keep the good juju flowing. So without further ado, let's welcome Anoop to the Highest Self podcast. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here. I've been reading your work for a while, so I appreciate your work too. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So the first question I'd love to ask you is, what makes you your highest self?
I think when I'm speaking my truth, when I'm being truly myself, that puts me into higher states of being me. And things that I'm passionate about. I know it sounds cheesy and cliche to be like, oh, I'm passionate about this, but I think pleasure has become one of my passions. It's helped me connect closer to divine, God, the source, the universe. So yeah, I would say that. And I think poetry and writing has put me in a place where the expression itself has brought me closer to God and helped me elevate my spirituality.
So how did you, as a man, start writing erotic poetry? I'm just curious because it's mostly us ladies out there like, fuck me open to God. And it's like, how did you,
Well, I started when, I started writing things in regards to the spiritual realm. I grew up in a family where spirituality was kind of welcomed. And it, like my dad especially would be like, just go out and discover what works for you, no matter what kind of religion it is. And being from like an Asian family, sex is kind of shamed. So I was the black sheep of the family, I guess. I steered more towards that because it's taboo. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that. Kind of like being a rebel in that sense. So then that from spiritual writing, developed into a bit more kind of sensual writing. From sensual writing, developed into a bit more erotic writing. And now it's like, well, I call it filth, but I wouldn't describe it as filth in a divine sense, but filth is in like the nature of it. So,
and I think it's like that integration of the sacred and the profane, and not seeing some like reclaiming even what filth is, reclaiming the dark feminine, reclaiming, because ultimately that's what we want. And it's so universal because when I read your poetry, which we're gonna read some of your fan faves and unreleased today, but it's like we all want to experience the same things, but it's almost like we feel so much shame around speaking it out because we feel like, what will people think about me?
Yeah, absolutely.
What if I say I want this and I don't receive it? What will that make me? And like all the stories. So do your parents read your poetry now?
My dad's read some of it. My mom doesn't read English particularly well, so she hasn't really. My dad is Indian, but he was born in Kenya, and my mom is from the Punjab. So, like the whole Asian family stereotype of being, like sex is a little bit taboo and not to be talked about is quite.
It's real.
It's real. It's deep rooted in my family, definitely. So they've read, so my first book is kind of from a few years back, is quite tame compared to some of the things that I post and share now. So I think my dad's read some of that, but he hasn't read the more kind of graphic things. No BDSM, no deep throating, anything like that. So
they should make a feature like block your parents from certain posts.
Well, actually, I had my family all blocked, close family, on my first account. And I kind of grew from that. That account got deleted by Instagram. I kind of grew from that and thought, I'm not going to block them this time around. This is me. This is who I am. If you want to see it, then see it. That's good.
Do you hear that song playing in the background? That is my new song, Divane, that I produced and wrote using instruments where my mom is from, the south of Iran, which is considered Afro-Iranian because we're blended in with the different elements of East Africa, paired with a vibey Afro house beat. So I grew up listening to this tribal style of music, and I wanted to create a song that could modernize it and bring these ancient instruments into our lives, because the truth is we are all indigenous to Mother Earth. And when we hear these ancient instruments, it awakens something within us. So I am so excited to share music from my lineage with you and bring it to life in this brand new way. So you can stream Divane, which means to have gone crazy for the divine in Farsi, on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to music. And I'm curious, what does this song evoke in you? You can find the link to listen to it in the show notes, and I'm super excited to share a piece of my heart and lineage with you. So let's dive into some of the work. Can you read some?
Sure.
And we can dive into a discussion.
So going back to my relationship with God and sensuality, I have a poem that says, God resides between your thighs, and I speak in tongue that's only for you. Then there is slow morning kissing when we're still sleepy. That turns into sliding my cock inside from the side. Deep breaths, slow exhales, and the only conversation is between my body and yours.
Ooh. Okay, let's stop right there. The first one. Can you repeat that one again?
Sure. God resides between your thighs, and I speak in tongue that's only for you.
So for you, what does that mean of like God resides between your thighs? Like, do you find yourself like worshiping God through worshiping a woman?
Yeah. I mean, I see God in everyone, like the universe energy is inside everyone. And I think it's especially prominent, but like a pussy is especially prominent. I call a pussy is a portal. It brings life into this world. It's the crossing bridge between like the divine and our earthly realm. So it can ferry life from that realm into this realm. So I think it should be worshipped. And that's, I believe in pussy worship. And speaking in tongue, I think that's self-explanatory. I speak in tongue, that's only for you.
But it's a really good like play on words of like speaking in tongue as in like, religious versus like cunnilingus. I can never pronounce it the right way, but it's both. It's like you're honoring the divine. And I think with your second one, it's like, just being in the morning with someone and it's like so natural. And I feel like our sex has become so performative in our society.
Yeah, absolutely. I think morning sex is probably one of the best times for me to enjoy it because it's that kind of raw feeling of like messy hair and morning breath. And, it's raw, like, who cares what? If I'm really into that person, if I love that person, if I care about that person, I don't care if they've got morning breath. And I think that one of the best, and it's still kind of like sleepy and, like you're like groping each other and it's.
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of people who just start dating, especially for women, they don't like morning sex because they're like, I need to brush my teeth and do my hair and do my makeup and this, but it's like that's still being in the performer, of like needing to look perfect. And so I think it's exactly that of like, I mean, sex is so intimate, like it's so weird to me that people like have sex with their coworker and then like don't say hi in the hallway. Like what? Like you guys are just like in each other, But it's like as our society, we have almost like made sex this like really casual thing when it's actually the most intimate thing. But then like would never, I don't know, talk about our dreams with that person.
Yeah.
It's so strange. Like,
I think the people are now starting to realize about things like spiritual hygiene and energetic transference and, like, do you really want a guy that has like kind of energetically messed up, has just come inside you and it's like then his essence is inside you? I think that's going to have like negative repercussions on like your own energetic field.
Exactly. I think the energetic cord conversation is so real because what often people think like being sex positive is like sex for all, like have sex with whoever, like end the stigma. And I think that was like the 1960s, like feminist birth control revolution, right? Of going from super 1950s housewife to this like sexual liberation. But I think now as spiritual beings, we're realizing sex is sacred and it is an act of the divine. And you do carry the energy of whomever that you have sex with, whether you're male or female, non-binary. And it's like, to really ask yourself, do I want to become this person?
Absolutely.
Or do I want to take on their qualities because what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's pretty common now that people know about energetic vampires. And it's a similar thing, if not a more amplified thing, to sleep with someone and then have them leech your own energy from you. So, and then later find out that that person energetically was a disaster is not the best thing.
Right. And it takes like a few seconds to really tune in. I always tell women, tune into your heart and tune into your pussy. And if you're getting a yes on both, then great. But oftentimes it's a no on at least one,
Yeah.
And if you just do that, it's going to save you a lot of time than all of the womb clearing you're going to have to do after, of just like getting this person out of your energetic field. And they say, I think it just depends on how deep that you go, but they say it can be in your energetic field for like up to 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. It's quite a thing.
It could be a lifetime if you get pregnant. So
Right. Exactly. And, it's like, if someone's listening to this, it's like not to shame past mistakes. It's like, we always learn from them and to just choose to see your body as something sacred. and to treat it as such. And I think poetry like this makes you not even want to have like casual sex because you're like, you're never going to get that level of devotion from some stranger you meet at a bar.
Yeah. I think when I started writing, it came from a place of desire. Like I wanted these things. And though that almost became like a manifestation mantra in itself, that was my expression, was creating a universe that where I was getting like those qualities in a partner. And I think it has helped to kind of set the bar higher for other people by reading my work that, I do want a partner that pays attention, that listens, that is empathetic, that holds space for me, that holds space for other people in my life, that caters to my needs in a sexual capacity as well.
Absolutely. Okay, read another one.
Okay. When you slide your fingers inside her and put your mouth right up against hers, talking her through the orgasm so you can feel every vibration and moan in your mouth.
Ooh! So I feel like kink, praise kink is a big thing right now.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So was praise kink inspired by this? What inspired this poem?
I think for me, I like to have more of a commanding, like dominant role. And I think talking someone through an orgasm gives me, like, not just for me, it gives me that kind of power to do that, which I find a very attractive quality. And then on the opposing side of that, I've always been with lovers that enjoy being talked through an orgasm. They want to be commanded. Often that's from a space of having too much control in their physical, real life, that when they become submissive, they kind of relinquish control and put their trust into someone else to drive. So I think I've always found that quite kind of like sexy, like come for me, telling someone to come for you.
And like a guy that moans when you're moaning, it's like they're enjoying it. And so that's like your turn on is turning them on. And I think that's what women need, because we have felt so much for centuries shame around our
Absolutely,
pleasure.
yeah.
So to know that that's like turning someone else on just for us to be on our own pleasure is like revolutionary, because as women, we're so conditioned to be focused on the male's pleasure only and feel bad for like taking up space or having a weird face or like, is he getting bored or, whatever the story is. So I love that. And I think right now in the collective, conscious kink is such a big conversation because so many of us women, like with the rising of the feminine, is like, yes, we're in positions of leadership and we run businesses and, we get so much done. And I'm so grateful for that. And it's like, we're fucking calling the shots all day,
Yeah. And you just want someone to, you want to put your power into someone else, let them take the reins and, do whatever you like. So it's kind of, and I think that in itself involves a lot of trust because during your day, like you said, you're calling the shots, you're in control. But for someone else to do it and for you to feel safe while doing it is such a huge turn on for a submissive or somebody that enjoys that.
Exactly. And that's what the feminine wants. It's like to be ravished, to be taken, to be guided. And I feel like, why do you feel like men don't do this?
Well, first of all, I'd like to preface that I think there's a lot of pressure on men to be something that like women know what they want. Even as a submissive, they know what they want. So, they want to be treated a certain way or to be made to feel safe. And I think there's a lot of pressure on men to try and fulfill that role. So I do think there should be some communication there between that, expressing what their wants and needs and desires are. But
yeah, I feel like, so for a woman who maybe is in a partnership where she's desiring, a man to talk her through her orgasm and to have more of that dom energy, how can she bring up that conversation without like becoming the dom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think a conversation's good. I mean, there are other things that you can do, like, you can work on each other to like gamify the thing and create like, what's yes, no, maybe, like pet names, for example. What's yes, no, maybe for a pet name? Good girl, and go into the more sir, master, things like that. But go into the more extremes of things, like whore and slut, and depending on what someone's preference is.
This good girl, I'm seeing this is another big collective of like, I don't know. It's like something in our like conditioning of like being like, oh, you're a good girl. It's like, yes.
Yeah. I think I saw a perfume recently that's now called Good Girl.
I love it. I'm like, why is this making me feel some type of way?
I think it's the accolade aspect of it, to be like rewarded for something.
Right.
To be given a gold star, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
And to be seen as like, important. I think a lot of women right now feel ghosted,
They to be seen, absolutely.
Exactly. And I think all these games that we've been taught, like be hard to get, don't respond, like it's almost, that's the opposite. I think if a guy came and was just like, I'm writing, you had one poem that was like, why do you want to take it slow? I've already written poetry about you in the stars. I'm like, yes, can that be the pickup line? Like, don't play hard to get, play obsessed with me. That's going to work, Except don't be a love bomber narcissist.
Yeah.
Cue on
don't
that.
Don't be like a stage 5 clinger, but
exactly.
Also just
be like healthily
me.
Obsessed with me and worship me and have your own life. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there was a song by Russ, and it's like a praise kink song, and it went super viral because of that, of like women really wanting to be worshipped. And it brings me back to like goddess culture, like ancient goddess culture, where they would venerate the goddess and the yoni and bring her flowers and like give her offerings.
Yeah, they were absolutely devoted. And I think we are kind of going back to that in a sense, like the whole devotion aspect, worshipping women in a positive way. Not worshipping them with sacrifices, which is probably good. But I'm all for it. I think, and again, like back to the pussy being a portal, I think it should be worshipped. I don't think it's a hit it and quit it kind of world anymore. Well, I hope not.
I hope it's creating a new one.
Yeah, I hope it's transitioning into a more positive one.
Okay, read another poem for us.
Okay. I need that rough sex and raw emotion, someone that always wants to learn and sticks to their word.
So what inspired that poem in you? Rough sex, raw emotion, someone who sticks to their word.
Well, I like someone that is passionate emotionally, and then someone that sticks to their word, someone that I think is always going to have my back is a huge plus for me, and someone that always wants to learn, someone that's always curious about the world. Wants to learn, wants to travel, wants to indulge in new things. I think I'm quite an indulgent person. I like indulgent things. So,
are you a Taurus?
I'm a Leo, okay. Leo sun. And I think that, well, that's probably why. But I like indulgent things, and I like someone else that likes indulgent things, definitely. So,
yeah, I think going back to the conversation of like, don't play hard to get, don't close your heart, don't play it off as cool and I don't really care and I don't even care if you texted me, I'm on to the next. Instead, be like, I'm so into you and like this is so exciting. And like opening your heart, I feel like we're so afraid of being rejected or being too much that then we're all just like walking around with our hearts closed when what we really want is to be seen, heard, understood.
Yeah, I think like I've had quite an issue with that for about 10 years, the whole savage culture thing of being, like savage, I'm on to the next person, I don't really care what you think. And it really disrupts that kind of flow of communication. Whereas like, you know what, I fucked up, we're going to work on this. Or in the bedroom, like we should communicate about what pleasures me, as opposed to just kind of being moody about it and then not speaking about it and then not enjoying it. Whereas I think there should definitely be some more conversations about how we enjoy our pleasure and what we can do to improve our pleasure, which I think would help with a lot of relationships, definitely.
And I think what people want when they're hidden and quitting it to the next person is they're wanting passion. And I think it must be in the next person. I lost in this one, must be in someone else. And it's not. It's actually when you go deep with one person that you break down those walls and those barriers and you access deeper levels of passion. It's never in the next. You'll spend your whole lifetime searching.
Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe in the next life, you'll come back to that person that you were with and you'll try again.
And that person will be like, I'm over it. You left me, bitch. I'm out. All right. Share another poem with us.
Sure. Again, with the raw, but a different kind of raw. The louder and the messier, the better. Moan and groan and writhe and roar. Come for me in your rawest form.
Ooh.
That inspired by, I like a very vocal partner, especially someone that, like for me, I want to know that they are enjoying it. And also for them, I want them to fully express themselves, to help them enjoy it more. Like, I think holding it back is going to be, it kind of like diminishes the orgasm or the pleasure in its entirety. So definitely.
Well, now they see that like the larynx in your throat is exactly like a replica of your pussy portal. Your throat and your yoni have always been interconnected. And,
Throny.
Throny, exactly. But a lot of us, when you first started self-pleasure as a teenager, it's like you didn't want your parents to hear. So you learned how to be really quiet. And, a lot of us, we had roommates then. And then you lived in an apartment and it was like being loud. It's like embarrassing, Yeah. So I think we've trained ourselves for many, many years to be silent and to not make any sound. But then, it does cut off your sensation because you're basically like you're cutting off your throny. So only you have the yoni, but not the throny. And it's only 50%. And I think also for women, it's that shame as well of like.
Yeah. That you're like you said, live like growing up and living with parents and it being a shameful thing. You have to keep quiet. And then as you get older, that becomes the norm of just being quiet. And I think men, like nowadays, they're a little bit more vocal about it, but I think it was also considered quite a feminine thing to be vocal about how much you are enjoying it. Like whatever it is, like, whether you're like getting
I see all these memes about girls being like, I love a man that moans. Yeah.
And I think it's become something special. Like a man moaning has become something special, which is why women are so attracted to it. But I feel like men should just, I'm quite vocal. I'm pretty open about that again, I feel like it's all connected and you should be as loud as possible. Maybe not grunt as loud as possible, but.
Well, here's the thing too. Because of porn, we've been conditioned to think sex noises are supposed to be this like performative thing of like, this very like almost infantilizing us. And, when you really go deep into yoni mapping and like releasing trauma from the womb space, like those are like guttural grunts. And they're not going to be on Pornhub. It's like ancestral. So I think a lot of women, if they really let themselves make the sounds they wanted to make, they're afraid that would turn the person off and scare them.
Yeah.
So it's like being accepting of the full range. And also we have to release like the darker, murkier aspects that we're holding on to in our womb space to then get that like higher, just pleasure-filled ascension, but there's a clearing that needs to happen first.
Yeah, it's the same with like crying, and if tears happen to come out after an orgasm, then we used to think that was like a bad thing, like that was happening, like, oh my God, no, what did I do wrong? But again, it's a clearing. It's something that needs to come out, something that's buried deep underneath.
Okay, ladies, let's be real. How many of you create a scenario in your head to turn yourself on? Like sometimes you're just daydreaming about this sexy, godlike Jason Momoa character just ravaging you and taking you into the unknown. And you're like, oh, and your body's just responding as if it's happening. Come on, this is a safe space. So stories are powerful. And in fact, for women, 90% of us actually really require story to get into our bodies. And this is why I love Dipsea. So it's kind of where stories meet sexual wellness. It's an app for sexy audio stories designed to turn you on and empower you to find joy and confidence in and outside of the bedroom. So all the stories are sex positive, empowering for women, inclusive, and created for us in mind. Whatever your fantasy is, they probably have a story for you. So it's fun to listen to, before bed, or maybe on your walk, or maybe you're just like on your way to pick up your kids and no one knows what you have on your AirPods. So for listeners of the show, Dipsea is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/Sahara. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go on Dipsea, DIPSEA stories.com/Sahara. And you can find that link in the show notes. I get so many questions about that. People like, why am I crying after an orgasm? And it's like that grief, the sadness, or even the joy, whatever it was in you. And it was just your orgasm gives you a little break to experience it and be honest with yourself, because you're like, for a millisecond, you're not wearing the mask.
Yeah, I mean, you are just you. And again, that reinforces the idea of that there is God's presence there, because you are clearing energetically.
I love that. Can you share another one with us?
Sure. I could be quite persuasive when it comes to keeping you in bed, kissing your skin like sunshine and giving you the slowest head, squeezing on your thighs and marking your ass, making you orgasm so hard there leaves little room for sass.
Oh, okay. Tell us that story.
I tend to like bratty lovers. I think the sass, fuck the sass out of them. Again, going back to making a lover come so hard that they don't really have the energy to have any sass left. So that's where that came from.
That's some Dom energy right there. I love it. And I feel like a lot of us women, again, it's like that. I think the feminine tests, like we test men, like, can you hold me? Can you hold all of me?
Yeah.
Can I get bigger than you? And it's like, we don't want to win, but it's like, we're just seeing like, can you hold my full range? Because I can be a lot, and like someone to be like, oh, I'm here for it. I'm turned on by it. And I'm going to like allow all of you in this giant container is like the sexiest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I the test, I think like as a bratty person would test quite a lot to see what how far they can push it before they're either punished or, you know, the shit's fucked out of them, or however way that goes.
I love it. And it's honestly like a mirroring of in relationships, like in life of, I feel a lot of women, you know, in the dating space, they're like, I could eat that man alive. I mean, I see that with pretty much every guy. I'm just like, you know, we're so many of us women, we've done so much work on ourselves and we're successful and we take care of ourselves and this and that we're just like, where's the challenge here? You know? And like to have a man that like challenges you in a loving way.
Yeah.
Is like ultimately, I think, what so many of us want.
Yeah, I definitely think some pushback is super healthy. Like, if there wasn't pushback, there would be no opportunities to grow. We would just be on a constant, steady, flat plane of existence, not just sexually, but pushback, you know, emotionally and in the world. So definitely, I think to have a partner that pushes back is probably the best opportunity to grow.
I've been talking a lot about seeing God as my dom, you know, and Sky Daddy is always, you know, has what yeah. Has my best interest at heart and gives me what I need, but not always what I want. And so when something's not going my way, I'm like, Sky Daddy, weren't you into me? But it's like, because I know God will always have my best interests. And I think it's like, that's the type of relationship so many of us women want with our partners, of like, you'll challenge me because you know you can hold me to a higher standard than I'm holding myself, that there's more to me, there's more to my pleasure, there's more to my expression. And like someone that can see that in you and is not going to just be like, you know, they love you just as you are, and they're going to also see your excellence. And I feel like that provides so much opportunity for the feminine to grow. Whereas I feel like a lot of us women right now feel like there's no more space for me to grow and spread my wings even more because I'm already kind of in a cage in this relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a poem for that.
Oh, okay.
I have a different poem. She wore divinity like a dress, the high priestess and playful goddess. Bearing her body next to the birds and the trees, brought her to life and set her free. Home was never a place, but a safe space in her soul, where she cherished experiences and stories untold. She loved the sun on her skin and bathed in moonlight. Being worshipped like a goddess was her birthright.
Just today, before I got here, I was like lying in bed because it's the new moon. I was like, you know, I should just be a Venusian goddess, getting painted, exploring the mysteries, eating fruit in bed. Like, what am I doing? Like getting in an Uber right now.
With the vases and they get water from the local river.
That's me. Why am I here? Yeah. But I think it's like ultimately that's what the feminine right now, we are remembering, you know, our birthright to rest. That beauty is sacred, that we don't need to push and grind and become men to be valued in society, you know, and that our softness and our intuition is so sacred, and that we can also get respect for that as well. So I love that, like picturing us being adorned and loved and loving ourselves, and that also not meaning like we're diminished in any way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So share with me the next poem.
Okay, let's go with this. He covers her mouth with his hand and slides 2 fingers inside. She's soaking wet and a dripping delight. Come for me, he carefully commands. She can moan when he allows it and come for him on demand. He moves his hand from her mouth to hold her down, so when her soul leaves her body, she can express herself. Nails to flesh and face to nook, she holds him tightly for a finger fuck. It's an exorcism, travel to another dimension, from a lover that knows how to release all of her tension.
Ooh, wait. Okay, tell us about that one.
So I'm a huge fan of finger fucking.
Okay.
I think it's a very underrated sexual act. Let's go with that. I think, a partner that enjoys it too. And I think there are men, well, possibly women too, that aren't really too comfortable doing it, don't really know how to do it correctly, don't really know how many fingers to use, and maybe like just use one or too many. And yeah, it's one of my favorite things. I think that you can like basically turn a woman into putty in your hands if you do it correctly. So I think with that, it was, like 1 orgasm becomes 2 orgasms, becomes 3 orgasms. And at that point, your lover is kind of like a soaking wet mess in the sheets and has traveled to another dimension.
Can you just read the poem again now that we have this backstory? Let's just hear that transmission one more time. DJ, play it back.
He covers her mouth with his hand and slides 2 fingers inside. She's soaking wet and a dripping delight. Come for me, he carefully commands. She can moan when he allows it and come for him on demand. He moves his hand from her mouth to hold her down, so when her soul leaves her body, she can express herself. Nails to flesh and face to nook, she holds him tightly for a finger fuck. It's an exorcism, travel to another dimension, from a lover that knows how to release all of her tension.
So I want to talk about the choking bit, because I feel like choking is also this thing in the collective. I'm having so many conversations with friends being like, I didn't realize I like being choked. And it's like this thing that like, if you hear about from the outside, it's like, that sounds very dangerous. But it's something about the restriction of oxygen that like mimics like when you're about to have an orgasm, like the breath hold that happens there. So it's that. It's also the trust that you have to have in that other person of like literally letting your most vulnerable part, your neck, like, be taken by someone. And so yeah, that. And then also what you were saying with the finger fucking, it's like, that's what yoni mapping really is. And a lot of women don't have a relationship with their yonis because of shame, because of, time. And most women use vibrators, And I always tell, because so many women wear these very long fake nails.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't do the yoni mapping practices with those nails. Like, I know if you have those nails with the jewels and stuff, you're not doing, you're not finger fucking.
That'd be very uncomfortable.
No, but it's like, we're willing to sacrifice our beauty to not have access to our own pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what is this for if you don't even have access to your own body because of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm guessing fingering themselves probably wasn't on their mind when they got the nails done.
It just means they can never do that. Like, that just sucks. Yeah. My friend who's been on the podcast, she teaches about yoni mapping, and she always like says like, always have your nails short because, your hands have Reiki power and energy to them that like you're able to feel and heal so much deeper by having your own fingers inside your body than having like this plastic or even a crystal thing. It's still a thing that's getting in between.
Yeah, it's still an external device. Yes. Yeah. I think that's important for the circulation of energy is definitely like from one part of my body to another. Absolutely. Like not to shit on things like toys and stuff. They do have their place, and they can definitely enhance pleasure. And even between couples, it can definitely enhance pleasure. But I think skin to skin is always going to be like king, absolutely, or queen.
Yes. So do you have any other poems that you'd like to share with us?
I do. I've also have some question responses.
Yes.
Okay, I have this. The good girl, the wild woman, the high priestess, the ancient goddess, Kali, Aphrodite, the creator and the destroyer. She plays in the world and takes what she wants, but at the end of it all, she's the universe's good girl. So that goes back to your Sky Daddy notion.
I love that. What inspired that poem for you?
That was, I think, instead of seeing women as just, like a young woman that then grows into a mother, and then, grows into an older lady, that what inspired is that there are many facets to women, and it's not just, not just like one single thing. There are many different things. It's a goddess, it's a creator, it's a destroyer, it's Aphrodite, like it's a lover. And I think there are so many different facets that we tend to ignore, and just kind of back to putting someone in a cage goes back to that. So I'm trying to worship that in a sense, or trying to show my recognition for that.
And that subtlety is so important that I feel many of us women, we feel like men often don't realize, like just what do we typically call even like the triple goddess is that maiden, mother, crone. And it's like, that's it. And it's like, but in between that and simultaneously during that, yes, you have every day I'm a different archetype. Sometimes I'm my wild woman, then I'm my dark goddess, then I'm my like Saraswati creativity, then I'm my Durga. I'm, that's why we have so many goddesses in all these cultures, Greek, Vedic, Egyptian, because the feminine is always moving and transforming with our menstrual cycles, with our moon cycles, but also with like what's happening in our lives and the collective. And I feel that like every woman that I talk to, she's like changing her personal style and her homes. It's like, because it's always an expression of us. And I feel like sometimes we really want to be seen and recognized in that, and it's not. And then you just feel this like veil has been put over you, that you've just been like limited to this like two-dimensional character.
Yeah. It stops the fact that we are evolving beings. We're constantly evolving from one lifetime to another. The whole reason that we are on this earth is to evolve as human beings under human constraints. And I like to not only remind myself of that, but I guess remind everyone else, because I write poems about it. But that's my expression of it, that we are evolving, changing beings, and I like to honor that.
So my question for you is, how do we find men who are, can worship the feminine and see all of our archetypes?
Manifestation is one, I think. But also, going back a step from manifestation is to, as long as you embody yourself and your truth, I think you will attract a man that will honor and worship you and your throny.
And your throny. Yeah, because it's so interesting, now me being single this year, my first time being single since I was 24 years old. So like the world has radically shifted. Everything's this online dating. And I'm just like, all of y'all are muggles. Like, no way, So it's like, what do you put on there? Like, what questions can we put on there to field them out?
Surely there's an app for more spiritual inclined men.
You should make one.
That'd be a good idea, yes. I think.
Be like, do you like this poem? Yes or no? If not, get out of here.
There'd be some screener questions, I think.
Exactly. What do you think of finger fucking? Yes or no?
Do you see God when you are finger fucking?
Exactly.
Yes
exactly. Do you rejoice in the sound of her moans and ask her to even express herself more, and then worship her like the goddess and bring her tea and then paint her? And if not, do not apply. So a question that people had is, how can we bring in more foreplay before the foreplay? Because we talk about foreplay a lot in terms of making out, second base, third base, but it's like the emotional foreplay, the mental foreplay, the spiritual foreplay.
Yeah, so when it comes to foreplay, I think there are a few different ways to engage your lover that, like as the precursor to physical foreplay. And I think one of those is something that I talk about quite often, and I think my poetry gets used as a good example, is dirty talk. And there's something that I like to call the slow burn, which kind of goes with dirty talk, which is, so if you don't live together, you send your lover something in the morning, or if you live together, you kind of get the fire going in the morning, say like, I'm going to fuck the shit out of you later, or I'm going to bend you over later, or something. And something to inception them and get that in their mind for the whole day, so that they're excited and thinking about it for the whole day. It's almost like kind of like edging your lover a little bit until that the event finally happens in the evening or so. Another way is contributing towards the emotional and physical container. And I think, which is kind of like a way of showing effort. You plan something, like we're going to do something later. And, one person says, I'll get wine. And the other person's like, or buys a new toy or something like that to use. So I think the knowing that someone else is doing effort is almost like foreplay, is putting in effort, sorry. That is foreplay in itself.
Absolutely. It's, letting the mind wander. And it's also showing that person you remember them. Like you wake up and you're thinking about them. And that's like the ultimate opening and softening, to feel important into someone's life.
I think that's why I love the morning so much, and I love good mornings so much. Like somebody saying good morning to you that you is like your partner or your lover or you're physically intimate with. It shows that you're the first thing that they thought of when they woke up, like good morning. And then that could develop into putting your hand in their panties but you could roll with that.
And what was the next topic?
The next topic was how to write the best erotica ever and where I channel my poetry from. So I touched on this briefly at the start. For me personally, my poetry came from a place of wanting to share knowledge. I enjoy, people like Rumi, like who doesn't like Rumi, shared things like that. And writing about spirituality and my spiritual experiences had kind of enriched my spiritual life, like what I had mentioned previously. And that then turned from manifestation of my desires, turned into having those experiences. And those experiences turned into like what my writing is today. So going back to this person's question, to write good erotica, you have to definitely, I think, envision the emotions. You have to feel it. Like it's not just something that you can just kind of put out there and be like, hey, it's out there, but I didn't really do it. I don't really envision it. It's just out there. I think people are going to like it. People pleasing is something to definitely avoid, I think, because there's no feeling in there. There's no emotion. There's no energy in there. If you are just writing it for the pleasure of someone else and not writing it for the sake of fulfilling your own needs and expressing your own emotions.
Do you have any ideas of how we can like create a foreplay ritual using poetry and, any other practices to create more intimacy?
Reading to your partner, definitely. That's one thing that I think a lot of like lovers, they are readers or they have been readers, that they enjoy being read to. And I think that's something that can be very intimate, reading someone poetry, reading someone erotic poetry, reading to someone while they're in the bath or they're falling asleep. So you read them a few short passages, a few short poems.
I love that so much. Being read to. It's so underrated. We need like physical books and just that. It just takes me into, I don't even know what movie, but I'm like imagining a bathtub and someone reading to you and you're like overlooking Paris. It's like etched in my memory. Maybe it's a past life. I need to bring it back. So where can listeners connect with you and learn from you further, read your poetry and dive in deeper?
I have my Instagram at NoopFace. And I also have my website, which you can also connect with me on that. And I'm also working with another platform called Made Hot, which is going to be kind of like the Netflix of spirituality / wellness. But I'm on that, sharing my poetry, sharing my writing, sharing stories. So yeah, they're the three places that you can connect with me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for the courage that it takes to put this out into the world, especially as a fellow brown person. Like it definitely is extra hard for us. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that. And every time I read your poem, I'm like, heart, save, screenshot. And so thank you for bringing just more romance into all of our lives.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, please share it. This is like a super juicy one. Maybe you share it with your friends. Like, hey, let's talk about these poems. What turns you on? Like, it's fun to talk to your friends about each other's kinks and things that you like. I mean, us girls, we do it already all the time, but this just adds another layer to it. And leave a review for the podcast as a free gift. I will send you my womb meditation. So this is a free meditation that you can do to drop into your womb space so you can receive her answers. So all you got to do is leave a review on the iTunes store, wherever you're listening to this podcast, and take a screenshot and email it over to me at sahara@iamsahararose.com. You can find that email and all of the links I mentioned today in the show notes. I appreciate you for tuning in. Keep it sexy, keep it hot, and I'll see you in the next one.
Trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your eyes and listen. Surrender, let go. So trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust